All right, so we're going to create a new project to start. So we're going to create the functions, and then we'll learn how to call the functions. And then let's say new project. And I think we did like a 5th one, so let's do 6th one, 6 example. And then I'm going to still put onto my desktop. And then this is the school. Yes, we did a 5th one, so now let's do 6th. Okay. That's okay. All right, so what we're going to do is we are going to create functions, and then I'm going to call functions. And I'm going to use text box. Let's create 3 text boxes that should be sufficient for our example today. So I'll create a button. Okay, and then let's give the name of the button. Let's say that is call. Okay, call function. Okay, function call function. And then btn call. Okay, and I'm going to put 3 text boxes, respectively named as txt A, B, C. Very simple, straightforward. Okay, so point here is not a graphical user interface design, txt A. Instead, is going to show you how to call functions. So after I have functions, how do we call those functions? So let's say txt B. Okay, let's have one more box. txt C. Okay. There we go. So we are going to write a code behind this button here. And so that's not, so that's what we're going to do next. So first, we need to learn how to create functions still. And let's see, we are going to write a code behind this form1.cs. Of course, you can create the new classes, put functions in, but we will do that later. So today and next week, we are just creating functions inside forms1.cs class. Okay, once again, for the structure of the code, just remember that this is a whole project. Inside the project, you have one or more classes like this. Okay, you see the layers. So if you tend, according to that the standard and the convention, then you should see the things very clearly. And then inside that class, you can have one or more functions, right? And I showed you that you can collapse that function. For example, this is just a public form1, which is actually a constructor. Okay, and the constructor is a function. So now let's try to create more functions. Okay, so what I'm going to do is first let's create simple functions. Suppose I want to create a function that will calculate the sum of numbers from 1, 2, 3, all the way to n. So in other words, let me tell you what I want to do. So let's say I want to get the whiteboard here. So that's the most important thing. For beginners, you need to pay attention, okay? And then one person took a computer science class, computer science programming class, but I don't know whether anybody else did it. So if this is the first time you do programming or coding, just make sure that you pay attention to this. This is not an easy subject, okay? So first, you need to create a function. First, you need to know, well, that's the easy part. Say you want to give a name, all right? So let's just give a name. So this is sum or addition, all right? And then you need to tell what is given, okay? And what should be output. So if I want to do 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus plus n, so you are given this maximum integer n, So that's the integer, and that is a given. And then the output, the result is going to be integer here. That is the sum, right? Sum of these numbers. So you basically add 1, 2, 3 all the way to n. And that is also kind of integer, right? So the result is going to be integer. So because of that, you're going to write a function head like an integer, which is coming from here. Okay? And then this name will come here. All right? And then this input. Input will be turned into parameters. So this you have only one parameter, this n. Okay, and then you're going to put a code, write a code, and the code will say, so you're going to calculate sum of 1 plus 2 plus 3 and plus n. And we already did that. So only thing difference now is that you're going to use n as a given parameter, assuming n is already given to you, and then you're trying to calculate the 1 plus 2 plus all the way to n. And then you return the result. Okay, so now I'm going to coming back to the whiteboard again for other questions. So let's go back to Visual Studio. So I'm going to create integer, say sum. So let's just capital sum, okay? And integer n. Okay, curly brackets. So essentially, what we need is we need to calculate the 1 plus 2. Let's just comment here. So 1 plus 2 plus 3, all the way to n, right? Plus n. So that's what we want to do, right? So apparently, we need to use a loop, right? So we're going to use a for loop because we know how many steps we're going to perform. So before that, we are going to create the initialize, create the result variable, initialize that. So we'll do sum, remember initialize to 0, right? And then we'll say for, okay, for integer I equal to 0, I less than equal to n, okay, and I plus plus. Remember, n is given to you because this is a parameter. It's given as a parameter, right? So it's given to you. So now inside your code, you can use n, assume that you already know the number. Does it make sense? You do not have the initialize. You do not have the declare variables for n, and this n will be given to you. So when somebody use this function, so he or she will give you this n. All right. Okay. So you just need to tell, if I give you n, then how do you calculate 1 plus 2 plus all the way to n? All right. So result will be equals to result plus I, right? Semicolon. Okay, that. So after this for loop, then the result should be available for you to return. So just say return result. There we go. So now you have this number. Okay, have this this function finished. Okay. Now let's say how can we call this function? If I'm going to give you n in one of the text box, and then you try to calculate, and then you do you call this function to get a sum, and then report that into another text box. All right. So you say that this part of code is just what we did before. It's just same kind of a code, but now we just merely wrap all this code into a block called a function. Okay, and specify input, and then you give output. All right. So eventually, this function will be reusable. So in the future, for example, you need to do a lot of this additions. You don't have to repeat this code again. You don't have to copy and paste this code. You can just simply call this function to ask this function to do the work for you. All right, so now let's go back to form 1, and then let's try to call the function. Okay, so I'm going to put like whatever integer in the first box, and then result in the second box. Is it clear? Okay, so let's just comment here, call sum function, okay? Call sum function. Now, look at the sum function. You need the input. And also you need to get output. So when you call these functions, first of all, you need to have variable and a value for the variable for each input. Okay, so in other words, you need to declare a variable integer n, So maybe you do not have to use exactly same name, but it doesn't matter use same name. You can use same name, okay? So declare variable for input, and you also declare variable for output. We can just say this is result. Okay, let's say out, okay? Or output. Output. Out is actually keyword. Output, okay? Or we can just say this is input. Doesn't matter. Okay. Input is integer, output is integer, right? And then to call the function, you will need to prepare values for input. In other words, the input must have a value. So what value will coming from? The value will be coming from one of the text box, right? So input will be equal to txt_a dot text. Okay. Remember the type must matching. So this is integer, but this is text. So you have to do conversion. We did a lot of times like that. So you should be comfortable with this type of conversion now. Okay. So let me repeat what we need to do. Okay. And declare and initialize input variables. Okay. So that's what we did. And then second, you need to declare output variables. So sometimes in this case, we have only one variable, but sometimes you have multiple variables. Okay, so next week we are going to handle multiple variables. So this is just one input, okay? Okay, so this is step one, step two. After that, you're ready to call the function. And this is how you call the function. Just simply say output equals to call the name of the function, which is a sum, okay? And then parentheses, and then you need to put input. So input is input here. There we go. So what does this do? This one line code, this one line, we actually call this function, call the function you just created to compute the sum. And now the output will have value. The output will have value. So this is call function, okay? Call function. Okay, and then finally you need the output. You need to show the result of output. So I'm going to use txt_b text equals to output, like that. Okay, and of course you need to do conversion because this is output is integer, and this is text. So you need to convert to integer, convert to text. Sorry, convert to string. Okay. So what is different from before? Is this just one step? This is calling the function. Okay. So that's the only thing different. So previously we will have to just put this code, copy this code, and into here to replace this one line call function. You have to just duplicate. Just basically just say if you have a result, use for loop and find what is sum of 1, 2, 3 all the way to the input parameter, and then you get output. So now this one line code will replace that. So you can say that this function will be very useful because in the future, some other jobs may also may require doing this kind of function, and then you just call the function again without duplicating this code. Okay, just think about that. Since we are business students, and in the future, a lot of you are not going to write a code, but most of you will do it related with management. Okay, with the management of technology. So if you have same piece of code, just think about that. If you have same piece of code, you repeat it, copy and paste in many different places. Okay, and that may work for the time being, but down the road in the future, for example, if you're going to change this, if you need to change this code, then you have to go to everywhere that you copy and paste to find the places that you need to change, right? So that would be very, very difficult, very tedious work for code management, code maintenance, okay? So it's better just create something, just one place. If you need to change, for example, how to do this sum, just change this one place, and you don't have to change anywhere else. Okay, so that will make a code management, code maintenance much easier. All right. So now let's say we can try this code, and it should be working very straightforwardly. All right. So now let's say if I put any like integers, like 1,000 or 100, okay, it does not matter. And then let's call, and then you should get this number, a result, right? So if you change this number to different ones, so that's just 5, and then call again, then you get this number, right? So that, basically that's what the call function called, the function call will handle that. Okay. So remember this class and next week class, we are mainly talking about how to organize your code so that the code can be reused. Okay. All right. So I am done with one function. So I'm going to just collapse this function for now. And then we have another function, say button call here. We can also collapse that. So now in this class, form 1, we have 3 functions so far, right? So now we can just create other functions in parallel, okay? Okay, make sure you have a good habit of indenting your code. Otherwise, it may not be very easy to see, where you should put the functions, okay? So project, class, inside the class, you have functions, and all functions must be in parallel, all right? Okay. All right, the question, yeah. Oh, this, I collapse this one. See that? Of the form, this one, you do the same thing, collapse. This one. So that button click is also a function. It's a function that respond to button clicks. Got that? See the minus sign in front of it? Plus sign, minus sign here. Okay, so let's do more examples. So this time, let's say we already did that class. They did this one. Say find the max or min of 2 numbers, right? And then let's just try to use that function again. Okay, so that's a very simple one. So basically, what you're given is you're given 2 numbers. Oh, you are given 2 numbers, and trying to find the max of these 2 numbers, right? So this is double. This may be A. That is just generally just double, right? Double. And then there's a B. That's also double. And then you're trying to find a max of these 2, either A or B. So let's just say there's a max, and that should be also double, right? Okay, so that does not matter, but this type will matter. So for that, you create a new function called double, and then the function name is a max, and the input you have 2, so you have double A, double B. And then you're ready to write the code. Okay, so put a curly brackets after that. So this is the place you write the code, okay? So first step is you need to make sure that what is your function head, okay? So to do that, you need to do a little bit of analysis, say what are the given? What are things given? What are inputs that are given? And then what kind of output should it be? Okay, from that, you create this function head, okay? Now, let's finish that. This is what we already did last class, okay? So let's create that. So max, now first of all, double, get a type, and then max, capital, okay? So we have double A, and then double B. All right. Okay. So first of all, let's declare result, double also, result. Okay. So we are given this A and B, so we do not need to declare A and B. We are assuming A and B already have values, okay? So they are already given to you as input, so we just directly use it. If A is bigger than B, then we just simply say result is equal to A, right? A is the max. Otherwise, else, then we say result equals to B. Okay, so this is just same process we did before without using functions, but now with functions, only difference is we need to return. We need to return the result. Okay, after we have result, we say return result. Get that? Okay, so this function should be straightforward. Now let's try to call this function. Let's try to call this function. So let's say what I want to do here. Okay, so we have 3 text boxes. So if I give you 3 numbers respectively in 3 boxes, and let's say I want to find out what is the max of these 3 numbers, the max of all 3. Okay, so for that, well, you know what? For this function, for this button, I'm going to put aside because I already commented on the process. Okay, so I'm going to just create a new button to do that. Because otherwise I have to delete everything or comment everything. So let's just do another button. So this button is going to be just doing, what is the name? You say max, okay? Max. Then BTN max. All right, so I can put this button in here. Okay, remember what do we want? Okay, we want to find out, so if I give you like 3 numbers, A, B, C, all in the 3 boxes, and then I want to call the function max to find out what is the maximum of the 3 numbers. Does it make sense? Okay, so let's double click the button and then try to put a code. So first of all, it is easy to find the maximum of A and B because we already have functions. So to do that, we need to declare, just create inputs and outputs, right? So the first step, we need to declare input. So let's say, hold on. So inputs are going to be all double numbers, right? Because A, B are all numbers, double A and B. All right. And initialize them. So A will be equal to txt A dot text. B will be equals to txt B dot text. Okay. And then you need to do conversions, convert to double. All right. And the same thing here, need to convert to double. Okay. So to call that function, first we initialize inputs, and now we need to declare variable for output. So let's just say this out, okay, output. Okay. After that, we are ready to call the function. Okay. So that will be output equals to max of A and B. This A and B are given as input, right? So I use the same name here. Now let me tell here. If you do parentheses here, either actually will tell you you need to have some kind of number as double for the first box, and some kind of number for B as double also. So you need to replace this A and B with your own given numbers, the numbers you get from text box in this case. Okay. So now you have maximum of A and B. Okay. And now let's just extend and make the problem a little slightly more difficult. So this time I need also to find out what is max of A, B, and C, all 3 numbers. Max of A, B, and C. You know how to do that? So we already found the max of A and B. Isn't that simple? We just need to compare this max with C to see which one's bigger, right? So we don't have to write many if-else statements, say A is bigger than B, or A is less than C. So there are many, nested levels. So I'm going to just call the function again, but this time I'm going to use C, declare variable output, C, okay? And then C will be equal to convert to double again, but then that's text box C, text, okay? And then we're trying to compare the maximum of this, the previous output, previous max with C, and put into new variable, which is still output. So we do not have to declare another one. Output equals to max of C and output. Now let me see whether anybody has questions about that. So you are using previous output compared with C to find the max, and then use that max as the final output. Okay. Okay, so this example demonstrated that if you do not have a function like this, what you have to do is you're going to repeat the same lines of code here. You're going to just duplicate these lines, this if-else statements when you do the second max, you do the second maximum. Make sense? So you did it once, and then you need to copy the code again. Does that make sense? Because you have to do this compare the C with output, right? To see which one is bigger, and then decide what is new maximum. And finally, we can just say output result, use a message box. Okay, so let's just say the max of 3 numbers is, okay, is what? I can just auto side say plus output. There we go. Does anybody have questions about this one? So this one I did a little bit strategically or more efficiently. That I compare A with B first, find the max, and then use that max to compare with C. Otherwise, you have to do many comparisons, right? A with B, A with C, and B with C, right? So that would be less efficient. Okay, and you can try the code. It should be working without any trouble. So you can put any, something wrong here. Okay, miss semicolon here. Semicolon. Start. So put any 3 numbers. So max is the first number. There we go. So that is pretty straightforward. And what if you need a call function that does not have input or output? What if you need a call function that does not have input or output? And I demonstrated that example, let's say doing gradients, right? So let's do that, okay? So let's collapse all the functions. Anybody has a question? Okay, so collapse all that. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 functions inside. So I'm going to create another function. The function is going to generate gradients, like say, good morning, good afternoon, something like that, right? So let's just say that in that case, I will have no input, right? No input. So I'm going to just generate output used as a string, okay, string, and then say gradient, okay? No input, because to generate that, you only parameter you need, only input you need is current system time. The current system time can be obtained from what? from this computer, right? Okay. So as usual, we need to generate. How do we generate today's get current data time first? So I'm going to just use the data time now. Okay, data time. And then let's say t equals to new data time, or we can just simply data time now. Data time now. Okay. And then from t we get current hour. So the hour is kind of a number. So let's say h equals to t dot hour. Right. And then we just need to write if else statement. If h is bigger than or equal to 6 and h is less than 12, then we say good. And what do we see? Let's just declare a result variable before this, if else. Okay. So that will be string result. Okay. And then result will be equals to good morning. Okay. So we already did this. I think this today is the third time, I believe. So the point is just trying to show you greater than equal to, show you how to call this function here. H is less than 12, less than 18. And then the result is equal to good afternoon. Okay. And then finally, else, so all other cases in this case has to be after 18, right? Between 18 and 6 in the morning. So result will be equal to good evening, right? Okay. So after we have a result, we just say return result. Okay. So in this case, I demonstrate that we have a function that has no input but generate one output. Okay. All right. Are you ready, everyone? Okay. So after this function is finished, now let's say how can we call this function? How can we call this function? So let's say where do we call this function? Let's go back to the forms. Go back to the form here. We can create another button to do it, but you know what? Let's just do it differently. We can just say when the form starts up, and I want that message to come up. Okay. So select the form and then go to event and find out the load event. Okay, when the form loads, and then let's just call the function in here. So the first step can be skipped. The first step can be skipped because the function does not need you to have input. So no input, no output, right? So no input, but now you have variable for output, so which is stream. So let's just say that is greeting, okay, greeting. And then just call the function right away, greeting equal to, what is the function name? Oh, function name is also greetings, okay? So greetings right here. And parentheses, because you do not need the input. So now this greetings will have a message, and you want to say the message. Let's just use the message box to show the message, okay? Message box dot show, okay? And then just say what? Greeting. The output, this one, result, okay? So greeting. So this is a variable which we after calling the function, this greeting will have like a text. Either it's good morning, which could be either good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and then you just show the message here, right? Okay, run that. If you load this, then you should get a message box to come up, say good afternoon. Is it good afternoon now? That's good afternoon. Okay, and then you have the form to come up. Okay, what if this function does not have anything to be returned? Let's just do that. Okay, so I'm going to change this function a little bit. Instead of using, so first of all, I'm going to comment this three lines of code. Comment. Okay, comment. And then I'm going to change this function. Instead of output or result like a good afternoon, good morning as a word, and then I'm going to just use the message box to come up. So void. Okay. So that means this function will not return any result, not return anything. So then there'll be no returns here. Okay, no returns. So instead of that return, you just now we just need to use say for example message box or something like a speaker or whatever to speak out to say out. So we'll use message box here. Message box .show result. Okay. So whatever result, whatever in this words, now I use a message box to speak out. Okay. So no returns. So therefore, the function does not return anything. So output is a void. Okay. Now, if we have this kind of function, how do we call this function? As a matter of fact, in this case, this is just like a regular command. So just type the command without output. So you do not need input, no output, no input, right, in this case. But if you have input, you can declare input and initialize those inputs. But this does not have input and no output either. So we can just simply call this function greetings. Parentheses, no inputs. Okay. So do you see that? This is just like a command, right? So you learn SQL commands in database class. This is just like one of those commands. Okay. So this is how you call the function without output. Just call the function as a command. No output. Do not need to put that into right-hand side. Could declare variable for output and then equal to and then name of the function. You do not need to do that. Just simply call the function. Okay. All right. Now let's run this, and I should get something very similar to previous screen. Yeah. Good afternoon, and then you get something like that. Okay. So all the difference is the function is created differently without output. Okay, so I'll demonstrate the three cases, how to call functions and how to create simple functions. So now next example, I want to do a little bit more involved. Let me see what example we want to do, okay? All right, so we did that. So I just skip this the division here. So next example, I want to do this one. So let's say I want to create a method that changes weekday number into weekday names. Weekday number into weekday names. Okay. I think the code is straightforward. Just use a switch statement. Right. So I think we did it that way. Okay. And then we just need to put that inside a function. Okay. So let's say what do we need? How do we create the function? Okay. What is the function head? So let's look at the whiteboard. Okay, so let's say the name is so how do we make the name? We can just say week day number to name. Okay. So what is given is kind of a weekday number, a number which is integer, right? the integer from 1, from like a 0 to all the way to 6, right? Integer number. So let's say week, day, number, okay, as a name, as a number, the name of the input. And what is output? Output, you're going to get a name, weekday name, right? So weekday name like Saturday, Sunday, Thursday, Friday, or whatever. So that is going to be text string, right? And then this is a week, day. Let's just give a name here, which actually does not matter, okay? But let's just use examples like Saturday, right? Saturday, Friday, all that, okay? So what do we need? We need that the input only, output only, so that is a string. And then we need to copy this name here. So week, day, number, to name. Okay, and then we need to put this input as a parameter for that inside the parentheses. So that will be integer, week, day, number, parentheses, and then curly brackets and curly brackets, and then we write the code in here inside, right? So let's find a place to write the code. Okay, beginners, but just make sure you don't write the code in the wrong place. If you do that, you're going to mess up everything. Okay, so going to do function, which is going to be returning string, and then week, day, number, to name. What's going on?
This is the monthly test of the university's indoor emergency notification system. In the event of an emergency, this system will be used to communicate important information. This is the monthly test of the university's indoor emergency notification system. In the event of an emergency, this system will be used to communicate important information.
That's it. All right. So let's put a parameter here, integer, week, day, number. Okay. So that is going to be input. So now let's do the code. So first of all, we are given this integer number, which is 0, 1, 2 all the way. And then we need to have a result. So let's say result is going to be string. Okay. And then let's just say we want to do what? We want to use switch statement, switch, right? So switch based on the weekday number. Okay. So let's say case, if it's a case 0, then we say result equals to Sunday, right? And then break. Then case 1, result equals to Monday, and the break. Case 2, result is equal to Tuesday, and the break. Case 3, result equals to Wednesday, and the break. Okay, 3 more cases, not that bad. Stay. Case 5, result. Then let's say there's Friday. is 6. And break. And finally, default case. Default case. So in the default case, we say result is unknown, right? And break. Okay. So after we have that switch statement, we have result. Now we can just say result, return result. Get that? Okay, now let's call the function, okay? So I'm going to use the function to convert number into names, right? That should be very simple. So let's just say for text box A, I'm going to give a number. Text box B will show names. So let me use the same create different button. Let's just create different button because I named that as a max. Okay. So let's just say this name is going to be called weekday. B2B, and then BTN weekday. Okay. All right. The name should be very simple. So basically, input, we need input, output. So we have one input. There's a weekday number, so which is integer. So input is input. Okay, integer, and then we initialize the input to one of text box. So I'm going to convert to integer 42. And then txt a.text. Okay. So input is ready. Now we declare output. Output is a name, right? So it's just string output. Okay. You don't have to use input output names. You can use any other names. Okay. Just trying to show the process clearly. And output, call the function. Output will be equal to, name of the function is weekday number to name. So then input, you put inside here. Okay. So now you have output. This output is misspelled. Output. Yeah. Output. And now after we have output, we can just use text box B to show it. Show output. Okay, so there we go. So now you have the button which will convert numbers to names. Okay. I don't think we need to try it. It should be very straightforward. You can try it. So what I'm going to do is going to another example. Oh, this is interesting one. Example 4. Example 4 is write a code to reverse letters in a string variable using any loop. Understand? So for example, if you have like a text like ABC, you want to reverse it to CBA. All right, so first step, we need to decide what should be input and what should be output. Okay, so box name, we can just call that as reverse. Okay, so what is input? Input is going to be some kind of text, right? So let's say that's a string, say T. Okay, and then what will be output? Output is just reversed. So that is also string. That is also string, right? And then just reverse text. Reversed text. Reversed text. Okay. So based on that, we are ready to write a function head, which is string. Okay, I'm just trying to emphasize this many, many times, but you know that this is a process for beginners to do this kind of analysis. So then this input, which is a string. So let's say T. Okay, and then you write the code inside the curly brackets. Okay. All right, so now let's try to do it. So let's try to find a place to write functions, okay? Don't write a function inside other functions. That would be just totally messed up. Okay. So create a function that is a string, and then call it reverse, and then string CT. Okay. Curly brackets. So first of all, let's declare a variable to hold the result. And the result, let's just say is start with empty string, so nothing inside. Okay. And what I need is I just need to for the T, first of all, for each, the T is going to have many characters inside, right? So I'm going to split that into characters. So remember, we know how to do that, right? So let's say char array, okay? Let's say chars equals to T dot char to char array. So that will create like individual characters inside the text T. And then we just need to rearrange that. So we use for loop this time because we know how many steps we're going to do. So let's say for. So integer, let's say I. And I am going to start with the last one first. Okay, so start with char dot length. The last one is that total number of characters. But remember the index started with 0, so we have the -1. Okay. And then I is greater than or equal to 0. And we just gradually decrease by 1 every time. Okay. And then we are going to do what? Going to do I minus minus. So that is equivalent to I equals to I minus 1. So we start with the last letter, and then we're trying to add this chars into the result. Okay. So every time what we need to do is existing result equals to result plus the char I. There we go. And finally, we have the result. So we add, basically, just remember we take the last letter first, and then gradually add second to the last. Next. Yeah, to the right of existing one. Okay, so let's just say if I have letters like this, like say A, B, C, D, right? So you split into individual characters, and then I'm gonna take the first one first, put this into the result. So the first, if you look at the while loop, the first one is going to be the last character, char dot length I equals to char dot length -1, so which is last character. So add that last character to the result. Current result is 0, is nothing there, so it's empty. So you're going to get D first. So you're going to get a D, okay? And then gradually you add a second one. So the second one will be here, okay, that, and plus B, and plus A, like that. So step by step. So you're going to get a reverse ladder. Okay, so after we have the result, now we can just simply say return result. Good, so this is the function, we finish it. Now let's do another function. Create a method that computes the factorial of any integer. I'm going to skip that one. You know how to do factorial. And then this one, I will do it after. Let me do this example first. I think this example is a little bit more interesting. So here, the example 2 here, additional example. Create a method called inside train that will turn multi-word text like hello, word, Joe, into just one word, hello, word, Joe. So basically, this function will remove all this, the white space inside. Remove all the white space inside the text. Does that make sense? Good. So the function is kind of similar to what we, in terms of input output, is pretty similar. So it's going to just say that is inside the train, the name, inside the train. Okay, and what is given is some kind of a text. Let's say string T, and what is output? Output is also string. So it's just the T with white spaces inside or removed. Okay. All right, let's do the function here. Good. So string. All right, and then let's just say inside string. String T. All right, and so what do we need to do? First of all, we need to declare result, okay? Declare result, which is a string. Result. Make that to be empty to begin with. Okay. And then we're going to say this is text which have a space inside. So I'm going to split the text using white space. And then for each one, I'm going to use apply trait. So we'll create an array called like a path of the text T. So T dot split. And this time will split based on the space and empty space. So this is one character. The character is just empty space. Just put like an empty space there, okay? So you get a white space. And then for each part, now if you have any other spaces, you can just trim them. So I'm going to use for loop in this case also. So integer I equal to 0, and I less than or equal to the maximum will be path dot length minus 1, right? The last one. And then this I plus plus. So we do increment. Okay. And then we just need to do result equals to result plus path I dot train. So remember, this train will remove white space before and the white space after. Okay. So just in case there's some more white spaces, so this will just remove all white spaces. Or this plus, sorry, plus. So you're going to just add easy part after you trim it, after you remove all the white spaces, and add this result. So we're actually doing two parts. First, I split by white space. Split by white space. So basically, we get individual words. And then we add individual words. And also, we need to remove white space from each individual words, just in case you have more white spaces. So I trim that. Okay, so this each one is, so pass I is I's word. And then you trim it, and then you add to the result. Okay, and finally, return result. Okay. Okay. Now let's test this last function. So basically, just kind of say previous one similar to this. So I'm going to just test this one only. So let's go to the form here. I should not rename this so that I can reuse it. So let's just create another button. Another button. Just do. Just say what is this? What is it called? Trim inside. Okay, trim inside. And then btn trim. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do is just put a text inside the first box, and the second box will show the result of the trimmed. Okay. So first, declare variable, which is stream. Let's say input. Initialize input. So you may have multiple inputs, but this time we have only one, which is text box a.text. And there's no need for conversion because they have same type. And then we declare variable for output. And then we just call the function output equals to, the name of function is inside trim, right? Yeah. And then parentheses, and then we tell you what is the text to be input. So this is input. Okay. Now you have output. Now we can just show the output. Txt b text is equal to output. Okay. All right. So you can try that. It's pretty straightforward. So for example, if I have, okay, good morning, good evening. Okay, so if I have words like I love Harry, then you still have white space, and you can have more white space inside. But then we trim it. So now you get rid of all white spaces, keep all the original letters. You see that? Does anybody have a question so far? Does anybody have questions? No questions? All right, if there's no questions, let's try to do one more function. And we'll call it off today. So the last question we want to do, last one we want to do is this one. Okay, example 6. And we did like binary number conversions. So in that case, you just divide by 2 and then use remainder to make up another binary numbers. But in computer science, there besides binary numbers, they also have something called 16-bit numbers. It's called what is it called? Octodecimal numbers. And they also have like 8-bit numbers. So every digit consists of a number from 1, 0, 1, 2, all the way to 7. Okay, so there's 8 base numbers. 16 base numbers will use numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, all the way to 9. Then after 9, you cannot use 10. You have to use A, B, C, D, and E, and F. So in total, you can have like 16 numbers, 15 numbers for each digit. Okay. So if we're going to have, if we need to do those kind of numbers and those kind of conversions, how do we do it? So let's just try and analyze the case first. Okay. Analyze it. So. So let's just call the name, like give a name, let's call it conversion. Okay, conversion. Okay, what is going to be input? Input, first of all, you're going to have an integer. Let's just say this integer n. Okay, so that's decimal numbers, the regular decimal numbers. And then you also need like another like a base. And the base will be either 2, 3, 4, or it can be any numbers. So that's also integer. So the base can be 2, that's a binary number. If the base equals to 3, that's 3 base number. 3 base number has not, I don't see anybody use the 3 base number. And the base can be 8, the 8 base numbers, or base can be 16, that'd be 16 base numbers. Okay, so let's just say we have a base. And then output, of course, in general, let's just use a string to represent. String. Okay. And then the function, so this time we have 2 inputs and 1 output. So this is a string. So output is like a binary string or octadecimal string or whatever. And then conversion. Okay, and then it's the integer n and integer base. Okay. So we write the code inside here. And we already did binary conversions. So now let's try and generalize it to any of these conversions, any of those number conversions. Okay, so let's try and write a function. So collapse all the functions before we create a new one. Oh, is this right? No, this is wrong place. Collapse. Okay, I'm going to put the function just in parallel to this. So that will be string and conversion. Okay, so we are given integer n. I want to convert that into different base. So let's say base. Okay. Okay. Now we know how to handle a base equals to 2 case. So remember the case was if a base equals 2, you keep on dividing by 2, and then add the remainder step by step, right? So you're going to declare. Let's declare result first, which is empty string. Okay. Okay. Do you remember how do we do the 2? Let's just do the 2 first. Okay. So then there's is this base? Or actually, base is actually keyword, so we cannot use the base. So let's just use B. Okay. B. So if base is not given, then we can just so this. You know what? There's a way to say that parameter is optional. You can just say that is equal to 2. You can also do that. Okay. Equal to 2. So that basically say B is 2 by default. If you do not specify B, then B will be equal to 2. Okay. So make the second parameter as optional. You don't have to have value for that. Okay. So remember, how do we do binaries? So we do while, right? So every time we do, so we divide. So remember, we use a number divided by 2, and then get a remainder. get the remainder. I use the remainder to make up the text. But I do not have enough time to finish this. So let me probably we need to use a little bit more time to finish this one. So I'm going to stop here. Okay, stop here. I have only 2 minutes left. Instead of rushing, I guess I need to explain to you how to do division if you have more than 2, if this is not a 2 case. So let me stop here. Let's see whether you have any questions. So this one is not finished, okay? Anybody has a question? Let me stop recording.